Competition and operation for the Eyes on IndyCar Series, Mr. Brian Barnhart, and of course the 2003 Indianapolis 500 champion, also a member of the iconic committee, Mr. Gilles de Ferran. According to one young man, Gilles, you won the Indianapolis 500 in 1994, so congratulations on that as well. Little Al was excited about that. We'll start things out, I guess, who's got the microphone? Randy's got the microphone, so we'll start with Randy. In case you are new to the Eyes on IndyCar Series or open wheel racing, Randy Barnhart is the CEO of the Eyes on IndyCar Series. He's new to the league this year, and he started, and I'll just let you explain it, Randy, the iconic committee, because fans, in your estimation, were looking for something new, a new chassis, a new engine package, and that was the reason for this iconic committee. Explain a little bit about your decision making and how this committee came together.
Well, when we first started, I was hired March 1, and we knew we needed to make decisions by June 1 for engine probably, and June 30th for July 30th for the chassis. And the one thing I learned very quickly was how much passion and expertise there was in the industry. And I felt, what if we created a committee that we really allow every aspect to really have some involvement, from the team owners, from engineers, to the competition department, and so we came up with this idea of creating the Iconic Advisory Committee that allowed the very most experts of the industry to take place, to be a part of this. There was about 110 people that were put on that list, and I talked to all of them. And I went and selected the ones that I felt would be the very best for the industry, not today, but what we're looking for 3, 5, 10 years down the road. And I mean, there was some opinions on there. It was like having an ultra-conservative and an ultra-liberal. I mean, you had both sides, and I think that's what made it real fun and exciting to see how this process went from just basically concept and how it evolved into what it did.
Two dynamics and two of the members of the committee, Mr. Brian Barnhart, and then we have Gilles de Ferran, who is now a co-team owner of de Ferran Dragon Racing, but also a competitor. But there are also members of the committee that were involved with racing, but then you had a kind of a liaison, a master of ceremonies, if you will, the committee, who had nothing to do with racing at all. Would you explain about General Looney?
Well, the one thing I kept hearing on blogs and from team owners was that the decision's already been made, and I wanted to make sure that we brought someone in, number one, that had expertise. That I brought in a 4-star general that had integrity and credibility amongst the world in modernizing his last command was modernizing the United States aircraft. Some of the same elements that we were looking for in this new car was something he'd just gone through the process, and then I believe someone like General Looney was a great person to bring in as a moderator to keep everybody very articulate and moving down the same path together, and that was very important for us. And I think that he did a tremendous job of keeping everybody right on track, keeping our agenda and keeping it articulate.
Brian, we'll turn it over to you for a second. The decision was made as far as the engines, and we'll talk a little bit about the engine package first. People wanted all kinds of things. We heard, let's have turbochargers, let's go back to the old days where they could make. There was a lot of input from the fans on what they wanted. I'm sure the teams had a lot of input on what they wanted as well. Of course, Honda has been a fantastic partner with the Eyes on IndyCar Series for years. The decision making, and could you explain what the general formula will be in 2012 for the engine package?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Michael. We're going to really set out to create an open and inclusive environment. We really wanted to invite as many manufacturers to participate as possible, and we really didn't want to narrow the box too close to eliminate someone. And through much discussion, we felt it was important for us to be relevant with technology. It's important to have the ability to transfer technology in the automotive industry. And in today's world, the message is about efficiency. It's about downsizing and doing the same or more with less. And what we ended up coming out with was a reduction in the engine size. In terms, we're going to have a maximum of 6 cylinders. So anyone can submit a V6, an inline 4, anything. But it's a maximum of 6 cylinders compared to the 8-cylinder we're running now. It'll be a reduction in the engine capacity. It's a maximum of 2.4 liters. There was overwhelming support for turbocharging, which again is going to be relevant technology and moving forward. It also gives us as a series a tremendous tool to adjust the power levels with the diversity of the schedules that we run, from high banks like Texas to short ovals at Iowa to super speedways to road and streets and permanent and temporary circuits. It's a great tool for us to adjust the power band to a level that we're looking for about 550 horsepower on the ovals, which it will allow us to reduce some of the drag restrictions we put on some of these tracks and open the aero up a little bit, and then increasing the horsepower on the road courses like where we're at here this weekend, and improving the performance on the road courses as well. So the turbocharging gives us that aspect, maximum 2.4 liter displacement, and maximum 6 cylinders. Those are both reductions. So our goal is to continue to be the fastest race series in the world, and we're going to be doing it with less in terms of engine size as well as number of cylinders.
So with the engine, then came the announcement of the chassis, and Jill, we'll let you address the chassis if you like. We saw the radical design of the Delta Wing that came out. Of course, Dallara has been the chassis supplier with the IZOD IndyCar series. I think the first car came out in 2002, the current one that we are using. But we saw all kinds of radical designs, and we heard from fans that want more of a traditional IZOD IndyCar. Some said we want something crazy and new. It was your job then to come up with something. What was decided on as far as the new chassis goes for 2012?
Well, I'll tell you, it was an interesting dilemma that we had as we walked into that room, right? We had all these potential suppliers presenting a specific design, some more radical than others. Like I said, the Delta Wing was certainly the most radical idea we saw out there. And I guess in short, what you have to say is that the committee decided not to choose any of them, and the committee decided to take the same approach as we took on the engine, and to make the chassis formula as open and as inclusive as we could. So in fact, when people say to you, what car are you going to choose, the terminology is not quite right, because we chose no car at all. We chose a completely different strategy to look after the chassis, that essentially improves the safety of the car, makes some of the, call it irrelevant developments out of the question, and makes people focus on development that is important, I think, for the automotive industry. Is also important for you to see the differences in the cars, which is mainly the aerodynamic package. And frankly, in these types of cars, the aerodynamic package is the biggest influence on the performance of the car. So instead of choosing a one-make chassis formula, we decided to open it up in a unique way. And we had Lotus already committed to produce a car for us. Also Dallara will also produce a car for us, and hopefully we'll have more people interested in that. All I can tell you is that we had lots of exciting conversation with different automotive manufacturers that are interested not only in the engine formula, but also coming in with a car. So it's a very interesting time that we're living in, and Randy and I we're going to Europe here in the next month or so to talk to a few manufacturers over there. Also, we're constantly in touch with the manufacturers over here. So it seems like we have been able to intrigue a few people, and hopefully that's the same with all of you guys.
Randy or Brian, if you'd like to address this, so the fans know, as far as the aero package goes, the teams will be allowed 2 different aero packages per year. But what basically the car will be built around is, or Gilles, if you'd like to address this, is a safety cell that Dallara will be building. And of course, these cars are so tremendously safe. Have we seen some horrific accidents and these drivers able to walk away? The key, and I think for the committee had to have been, we've got to keep these cars safe first and foremost. And Dallara will be building what is basically a safety cell, a cockpit if you will, and then the aero packages will be built around that safety cell.
Sure, I can address that. I mean, the car itself will have a number of standard parts that will be built by Dallara, but 2 IndyCar specifications. It's important to make that clear. So that the safety cell is built to IndyCar specifications. It's obviously it's a Dallara design and produced by Dallara in Indianapolis, by the way. But is done to IndyCar specifications. So that is not the big differentiator between all the cars. So the cars will then be branded by the maker of the bodywork, you know, which frankly will be making the part that is most important for the performance of the car. In that way, we can keep the costs down, and we can keep the safety up, and we can keep the variety and innovation back into the series. So I think it was an interesting solution, you know, you know, hopefully there will be more takers on it. I think you're certainly going to see a constant renewal of the way the cars look, not only through 1 year, but throughout different seasons. So, and hopefully that will keep the interest in the machines up. I mean, to me, the cars were always a very interesting part of IndyCar racing, and you're going to see them evolving over time.
Questions? Let's open up the floor. This young man first to have his hand up. What's your name, young man, and what's your question?
My name is David. Will there still be the push to pass with the new engine?
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the best things that go into the turbocharger. It'll be way more effective. You know, our push to pass right now is very limited because of being a normally aspirated engine. The goal is with the push to pass in the new configuration beginning in 2012, it could add up to 100 horsepower.
Very good. This young man over here, fantastic cat. What's your name? Where you're from? What's your question?
Mike Weitzel from Columbus, Ohio. Just curious on the push to pass. We've heard the number of about 700 horsepower thrown out in the road course configuration. Would the push to pass be 100 horsepower in addition to that, or would 700 be like the max?
It'll probably be a little bit of both. I think they'll be able to exceed 700 when you push, but I think it'll be a little bit of circuit dependent because we're going to have targeted performance goals of where we want to be. So a certain road course, depending on its configuration, we may be at 680 and we push past it, may go to 750, that type of deal.
Okay, this a little off the iconic committee, but a relevant question for 2012. Your name and what's your question?
My name's Don from Chardon, Ohio. Randy, before I ask my question, I just wanted to tell you that I'm like a lot of people who have followed the sport since the 1960s, and it seems to me that you've come a long way to turn around about 15 years worth of products in about 15 weeks. So don't let up, you know. As long as the TV ratings start with a decimal point, we got a problem, you know. My question is about the Cleveland Grand Prix. We have Firestone has its world headquarters right up the road in Akron, and I'm sure they would love to get that race started again. And I was wondering what the prospects would be for the to have a signature race like that back on the schedule. I know Gilles won the race there in '96, and Gilles, if memory serves, that was the last win of the great Jim Hall, wasn't it? And what's the chances of getting that on the schedule for 2012, 2013?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for what you've said, but you know, I think what's real important when I came in here, we had a great team in place of management, and I just let them. It was kind of like taking the bit out of the mouth of the horse and saying, "You guys run." And we need to change some things up, and we want to listen to fans, and we're going to do what fans and our team owners and our sponsors and our drivers, we need to be focused on what's best for our sport. And saying that, I think one of the biggest things that we can do going forward is make sure that we try to bring some of the relevance of history back into the sport as well. I mean, I've had more people tell me they want to go to the Milwaukee Mile than any other racetrack. And we have been trying to get that on our series. They want some more short track, especially right after Iowa this year. We had so many people send emails and say, why can't we have more races like that? I think that one thing that we've done within our sport is said that we want to be known as the most versatile race car and race car driver in the world. And saying that means we have to be the best on road courses, street courses, short, and super speedways. And I think that when we look at our overall picture, we want to have a complement and a consistent package of all of those. So back to your question about Cleveland, we've looked at it, but it's not on our top of our list, to be honest with you, because the Road America is one that we like to look at. I mean, there's a lot of great courses out there that we want to take in consideration. And I think the most important thing right now is bring the promoters in and say, what can you bring us to grow our sport? And the ones that are hungriest are the ones that are going to win.
Very good. Young man, your name, your question, and where are you from?
My name is Stuart. I'm from Ada, Ohio. Regarding the engine from 550 to 750 horsepower, is this the same engine using a restrictor plate, or is it using different engines?
It's the same engine everywhere we go, and that'll be part of the challenge that the manufacturers will have to accept. Again, it goes back to the turbocharger, being able to adjust the boost on it. But it'll be the same engine configuration for all racetracks.
Just to follow up with that, Brian, will you be measuring the engines pre-race to keep, I guess, a level playing field? If we're going to have all different types of engines, I guess you don't want to have one more dominant than the other. We still want to keep them on a relatively same playing field.
That's a great point, Michael, and I think it's important for us to be open and inclusive and inviting everybody in. The manufacturers are going to have to understand and accept there'll be a management of the power levels and everything we can to equate and make sure, because if somebody's bringing an inline 4 versus a V6, in the interest of competition and entertainment for the fans, we want close parity between the performances of the engines. The last thing we'd want is one of them out dominating and winning all the races. All that is going to drive the other manufacturers out of the sport. So there will be management capabilities to ensure the quality of performance.
Yes, young man, your name and your question.
Don K. Autosport Radio of Indianapolis, and this is for Randy. Everywhere you go, you're accessible to fans, to media, to anybody who has a question, a comment, or a concern can talk to you, and you will listen to them. How much has that brought into your thinking when you have the Iconic Committee, listening to what people are telling you? The same with Brian, the things he's doing with the engine company. You know, the fans are the people that come to watch and enjoy it. So how much have they influenced you, Randy?
The fans have been a huge influence as well as the press. I think some of my best ideas that I've heard so far has actually come from the press. I can honestly say there hasn't been one idea that I've had yet. I've stolen it from someone, from a fan or the press. So I'll just be really upfront, candid with you on that. But you know, I think that the Iconic Committee, the first couple of meetings when we sat down and all we did was look at our research of our demographics, focus groups, any type of relevant information that we had from back, and even as far as 1992 we went with some of the karting research that we were able to find, or the kart research that we were able to find. I think that to us, before we could make a knowledgeable decision, we had to try to really get into the mind of what fans wanted. We knew what team owners wanted. Team owners wanted cost efficiency. We knew what auto manufacturers wanted. They wanted to be able to create brand identity. And that's what was so important about creating an aero kit, that if Ford or GM wants to come back in, they can create a car that shows what they want to show from their brand identity to build their brand. And I think that was really important. And this committee, it was amazing. I sat there and just absorbed. I mean, to see these 7 men sit there and know that they had 75 days to make this decision. There was not any time wasted. It was very to the point, and like I said, 180-degree differences on the day we walk in there. Some wanted the Delta Wing that first day, I'm sure. Some wanted the Lola probably. But to see them, how they come together, and see how they were unanimous on every decision in the last couple of weeks was just an awesome experience for me.
Okay, your name and where are you from and your question?
Robert Pfeiffer from Wichita, Kansas. I'm wondering, with all these different aero packages, and there's been a lot of talk lately in some of the cars in general about overtaking and the aerodynamic impact, how you're planning to test the different aero packages, particularly for weight turbulence and pitch sensitivity, so you don't have as many blowover crashes.
Jill, that's you.
I didn't quite understand the question, sorry.
He didn't understand what you said. You got so technical, even Jill did not grasp what happened right there.
I'm wondering how you're going to test the different aero packages to alleviate weight turbulence issues and pitch sensitivity problems.
Well, I understood it now. Thank you. I think it's important to remember it's still a competition, you know, so some will be better than others, you know, and there will be one aero package, there will be, or shall we say, one car will be better than another car, and that's the whole point, right? So it's not only a competition between teams and drivers, but it's also a competition between engine manufacturers and car manufacturers. So I think there's got to be some leeway for people to do what the hell they want, and find an edge. Having said that, one of the considerations that I know is being taken into account on determining some of the, shall we say, specifications of the new car is to minimize particularly the effects of one car following the other car, so that we have improved aerodynamic characteristics when the car behind is following another car closely. And we're trying to do that in every type of racetrack, so that you'll be able to see these Indy cars following a little bit closer to each other than what they do today, because they don't get as disturbed as they do now. Now that's it's a complex thing, you know. Like you say, weight is certainly one factor. Pitch sensitivity is another factor, you know. But there are many other factors that improve or diminish the ability of one car following another car. There's a lot of clever guys, I can tell you that, much cleverer than I am, looking at that very question right now and trying to understand if we even have to add some movable aerodynamic devices to the car to ensure that that's the case.
Very good. Your name, where you're from, and your question.
I'm Tony, I'm all the way from England. I'd like to ask you, since you're allowing freedom of aero packages, what cost limitations is going to be placed on the big teams so that they just don't run away with the series and leave the small teams just grappling at the back like they usually do?
Hello, Tony. Well, I think there's a number of limitations. First, there's a price limitation, and second, there's a limitation of supply. I mean, Brian has already alluded to it. Each team is only going to have to be allowed a limited number of aero packages per year, and there's only a limited number of modifications of the aero package per year. So that way you cannot, you're controlling the development cycle of all these aerodynamic parts. I can tell you that when I was working in Formula One, you know, we used to test over 2,000 parts per month in the wind tunnel, and typically every race we would add anything to, you know, 5 to 10 new parts in the car. That's simply not going to be allowed. So you cannot have that much development throughout the year. Second of all, you know, the price of the parts are capped. So they're, you know, Penske or Ganassi or AGR, which are the most, I would say, the biggest teams in the series, they would not be allowed to have something exclusive to them, you know. So whatever they have, either they did it themselves because they chose to, they have to make that available to other teams at a certain price. So that way the availability is there, which is a very important factor, you know. As long as you know that you can get it, as long as you know what price it is, I frankly, and I own a little team, I would say, I don't have a problem with that, you know.
Name, where you're from, and your question.
John Wells from Findlay, Ohio. And I have a question about chassis. The answer you just put out there makes this a two-part question. You mentioned you got to watch the development of these aero packages. Brian said that if we don't want different engines, that, you know, where one really outperforms another. What if you get one or two aero packages that are clearly dominant over the others? Are you intending to police that over time as well?
Well, in my mind, you can't regulate competency, you know, or excellence. You know, you have to have you know, it would be the same thing as you have a brilliant driver and you say, by the way, you're too good. You know, we're going to start you about 10 seconds back because you're far too good, you know. I don't think that's the right thing to do. You know, it would be too much of a show and not enough of a sport, you know. I think what Brian alluded to is he's going to put and he can talk about it himself, you know, a set of regulations there, a set of parameters that are frankly tight parameters to try to keep things in check and let everybody get at it. You know, I think, you know, let me put it this way. If I was competent enough to produce a good aero package, and or if I did a good job in my team by choosing the right engineers and by choosing the right drivers, you know, I want to win. I don't want to be said, okay, but by the way, you're too good, you know, let me put an anchor on your feet because you're proving to be too competent. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's what the fans want to see. I think what the fans want to see is the best man win, you know, and make the best man win. And if I get beaten by the best man, that's okay. I'll be the first guy to shake his hand. I'll go back home and I'll try to do a better job next day. You know, that's how this country was built, and that's how this the world goes around.
Very good, Joe. One last question, and we'll wrap things up. Your name, where you're from, and your question.
Nat Krieger from East Meadow, New York. My question is really simple. Within each team's 2 aero kits, will they be able to mix and match the pieces to basically create a third aero kit?
And I'll add to that, Brian, too, on these aero kits, it's all to Eyes on IndyCar security specifications. How radical will we see these different aero kits? I mean, will it be a certain width, or will there be a big box that these have to fit in, or will it be more tightly controlled to add to that?
It's certainly our goal, Michael. I'll answer yours first. It's our goal to create different looks. That's what the fans wanted to see. So from our standpoint, we've got to do our best to make the box big enough to allow for different interpretations. And that's certainly our goal to try and do so. Again, I guess maybe a quick reminder of what the kits will consist of. It'll include front wings, rear wings, both side pods, and an engine cover. And their maximum price for those is $70,000. And we're going to do our best to design those boxes big enough. I'll go back a little bit to Robert from Kansas's question earlier as well. The league will be mandating and instituting tests for each kit that gets submitted. The kit will have to pass safety tests, including yaw stability and blowover test. So that'll be our primary objective, to making sure it fits within the rules and then passes those safety aspects. Then it's available to anybody who wants it for $70,000. The teams are then restricted to 2 kits. In answering your question, the kits may not be intermixed. You have to run the kit as submitted.